Hello and welcome to the presentation on Texas Apiary Law. This presentation will focus primarily on the laws regarding keeping bees in Texas, but will also provide an overview of the Texas Apiary Inspection Service. Without much further ado, let's begin. The Texas Apiary Inspection Service was first established in 1910 due to legislation requiring the suppression of foul brood, specifically American foul brood, which is one of the most problematic diseases a honeybee hive can contract. It wasn't until 1920 that the first chief inspector was brought on board. The Texas Apiary Inspection Service is housed at Texas A&M University in College Station. Inspection services have been established across the nation with the same goal of combating American foul brood, and they were largely successful in their efforts. For the most part, states across the U.S. do not experience widespread cases of American foul brood infections, and this is largely attributed to the inspection services and their efforts. Currently, many states still monitor for American foul brood, but will also focus on mitigating other pests and diseases of honeybees. The Apiary Inspectors of America is a nationally recognized nonprofit organization comprised of apiary inspectors across North America. The goal of this organization is to promote collaboration and communication across inspection services while promoting management practices that improve honeybee health. At the Texas Apiary Inspection Service, our priority is to protect the apiary industry to the best of our abilities. We work to achieve our goals through the application of science-based regulations, educational opportunities, and open communication with the industry. We feel it's important to stay up to date on scientific improvements within the apiary industry and apply these methods to our inspection services, as well as promote them to beekeepers for better management practices. Our office operates under the Texas Agricultural Code, Chapter 131, Bees and Honey. A copy of the laws can be found on the Texas Apiary Inspection Service website under the Regulations tab. Under the current beekeeping laws, the Chief Apiary Inspector has three main powers and duties that are focused on controlling and mitigating the spread of disease within Texas. The first duty is for the chief to adopt rules that are necessary to control, eradicate, or prevent the introduction, spread, or dissemination of contagious or infectious diseases of bees. The chief may also prevent the entry of bees, honey, comb, pollen, or other items capable of transmitting diseases of bees. Finally, the chief can seize and order the destruction, treatment, or sale of a colony of bees, equipment, pollen, or honey that is determined to be diseased, infectious, abandoned, or in violation of these laws, rules, or established quarantine. No matter how intimidating these powers and duties may seem, they provide the ability to localize diseased hives when necessary, therefore preventing the spread of disease to other beekeeping operations within Texas as well as across the nation. The Texas Apiary Inspection Service also operates under a set of rules within the Texas Administrative Code titled Chapter 71, Bees. Our office has the capability of updating the rules without going through the legislative committee. Rather, the changes are submitted through a public comment period before they can be adopted. A copy of the current rules can be found on the Texas Apiary Inspection Service website under the Regulations tab. The Texas Apiary Inspection Service primarily focuses inspections on commercial operations, as well as those that are migrating across the Texas state border. Smaller scale operations can request inspections as needed. A state inspection can provide a beekeeper with a health certificate that is valid for 1 year from the inspection date. A state health certificate, or a signed health affidavit, is required under the current beekeeping laws if a beekeeper is selling nukes, queen cells, or queens. Our office will also conduct emergency inspections as needed. So, for example, if a beekeeper notices an anomaly in their hive and cannot diagnose the issue or suspects it may be American foul brood, we will work with the beekeeper to identify the issue and will conduct an inspection as soon as possible. Under the current beekeeping laws, there are several different movement permits that are required for a beekeeper to obtain depending on what time the movement is occurring. For example, the import permit allows a beekeeper to transport hives into Texas, whereas the export permit is required for transporting hives out of Texas. A beekeeper is required to apply for separate import permits for each state they are bringing bees from, as well as separate export permits for each state they are sending bees to. Multiple states cannot be covered under one permit application of each type. These permits will also expire once the shipment has been conducted. They are not valid for any extended period of time. The intrastate permit allows a beekeeper to transport hives across county lines in Texas. This permit is valid for one fiscal year, which is from September 1st to August 31st of every year. Let's say a beekeeper applies for this permit in April. The permit will still expire on August 31st and must be renewed if the beekeeper continues to transport hives across county lines. I'm going to skip over the bee removal transportation permit and come back to it in a few moments. The queen certificate is requested by beekeepers who would like to have their queen yard as well as a few outyards inspected. This inspection provides the beekeeper with what we call queen tags. These tags are small health certificates that the beekeeper can include with the sale of their queens. This type of inspection is typically requested by large production queen breeders who would like to include an official health certificate with the sales. Now let's go back to the bee removal transportation permit. This permit operates the same way as the intrastate permit, meaning that it simply allows a beekeeper to transport hives across county lines. It is not a bee removal license. Bee removal in Texas is an unregulated business. The Texas Apiary Inspection Service, nor any other agency in Texas, regulates the bee removal industry. However, beekeepers who wish to conduct bee removals have some simple requirements to abide by. Under the Texas Structural Pest Control Law, beekeepers are exempt from acquiring a pest control license. However, they are required to register with the Texas Apiary Inspection Service, and the beekeeper is not allowed to use any chemicals during the removal process. If the beekeeper intends on conducting bee removals outside of the county where their home is located, then the Texas Apiary Inspection Service requires the beekeeper to apply for the bee removal transportation permit so their cross-county movements with hives are permitted. If a beekeeper intends on only operating in the county where their home is located, then the beekeeper is still required to be registered with the Texas Apiary Inspection Service. However, they are not required to apply for the movement permit since they would not be crossing county lines with the hives. As a public service, TAIS maintains a list of beekeepers who have both registered and applied for the bee removal transportation permit, and posts this list to the service's website under the Bee Removal tab. Our office does not endorse any beekeepers on the list and leave it up to the consumer to determine who they want to hire. We recommend anyone using this list to read the disclaimer that is posted at the top of the bee removal page prior to contacting beekeepers. TAIS also offers an apiary registration to beekeepers. Under the current laws, apiary registration is completely voluntary no matter how many hives you have. There is also no fee for registration, and currently it is a one-time application, meaning it does not need to be renewed. A beekeeper can also apply for a brand number to place on the outside of their colonies. This number is assigned to the beekeeper by the Texas Apiary Inspection Service, and it is only known by our office and the beekeeper. For each brand, the first number is always 1, which indicates Texas. The second number is the county code for the county where the beekeeper's residence is located. The last number is the specific number assigned to the beekeeper. Under the current beekeeping laws, hives must be identified by either the beekeeper's name and address or the equipment brand number. Some beekeepers choose to apply for a brand number as a discreet way of identifying their hives rather than advertising their name and address to the public. Now we will transition into speaking a bit more about how the Texas Apiary Inspection Service is adapting to the ever-changing world of beekeeping. The apiary industry has been stressed by an array of pests and diseases over the years, but through state regulations and collaboration with beekeepers, many of these issues have been mitigated. To start off with, the Texas Apiary Inspection Service was established in 1910 to combat American foul brood, and they were largely successful in controlling the disease. Within Texas, there have been no cases of American foul brood found or reported within the last few years. This does not mean that the disease no longer exists, rather beekeepers are making efforts to eradicate the disease from their operations. In 1984, the tracheal mite was introduced, and this mite has largely disappeared from the industry within the United States. In 1987, the varroa mite appeared and has continued to be a detriment to the industry. In 1990, the Africanized honeybee made its entrance. Prior to the invasion of Africanized honeybees into Texas, apiary inspectors make concerted efforts to educate the public on actions to take if exposed to an Africanized honeybee colony. Once they arrived in Texas, apiary inspectors worked to track the movement of Africanized honeybees through the state and to control the problem as best they could. Today, Texas is still considered an Africanized state. However, through the efforts of the Texas Apiary Inspection Service and the influx of docile genetics via beekeepers, Africanized honeybees are not as prevalent an issue as when they were first introduced. In 2006, the term colony collapse disorder made its appearance. Today, we don't see many hives that fit the original description of CCD. Rather, we see hives struggling to mitigate with multiple factors that play into honeybee health. As for the question marks, there is always something new on the horizon that can negatively impact the apiary industry. Two primary examples are the giant Asian hornet and the Tropilelaps mite. I encourage you to research both insect types to increase your awareness of potential issues, as well as to prepare yourself if these new pests are introduced to the United States. Over time, as our agricultural industry has changed, so has the demand for honeybees. There has been an increase in demand for beekeepers to supply their colonies for pollination contracts. One prime example is the almond industry in California. As of 2015, there are over 1 million bearing acres of almond trees. In order to pollinate all of these trees, there is a need for at least 1 million honeybee colonies to be transported to California. Due to the demand for almonds, some expect the number of bearing acres to increase over time, which means that there will be an increase in demand for pollinators. Currently, there are about 2 million colonies in the U.S. that are used to meet pollination and honey production demands. As the demand for colonies increases, new methods to keep healthy colonies must be developed. This means that new solutions for the apiary industry must be found. One of the best parts about being an apiary inspector is that we get to act as a bridge between beekeepers and researchers. It's a rare occurrence for beekeepers to interact with researchers, so apiary inspectors often act as the liaison between the two. A couple of examples of these collaborations are via the Bee Informed Partnership and their tech transfer teams, as well as participating in the National Honeybee Survey organized and funded by the USDA. Ever since colony collapse disorder had its media breakthrough, the interest in beekeeping has skyrocketed. The increase in popularity has primarily been seen in urban and small-scale beekeeping. The number of small-scale operations is currently unknown in Texas, however, the number is estimated to be in the thousands. One of the unique benefits of small-scale beekeeping is that it transcends socioeconomic boundaries, which in turn brings multiple perspectives to the table. With this increase in popularity, inspection services have had to make some adjustments as well. Most notably is the increase in demand for information from both beginning beekeepers and non-beekeeping audiences. As a result, the Texas Apiary Inspection Service has focused more of an effort into participating in major beekeeping events, as well as communicating with homeowners, municipalities, extension agents, agricultural clubs, and many others. The Texas Apiary Inspection Service has also placed a focus on educating beekeepers, primarily small-scale operations. TAIS participates and presents at several major beekeeping events throughout the year, speaking primarily on the Texas beekeeping laws, as well as pests and diseases of honeybees. There are also several educational materials made available on the Inspection Service's website. One section that may be valuable to beekeepers is the Pest and Disease section that provides a comprehensive list of all the different pests and diseases a beekeeper may encounter in their colonies. TAIS has also provided a list of best management practices for honeybee health. This document is merely a list of suggested actions a beekeeper can take to ensure healthy colonies. They are not a requirement in order to keep bees in Texas. Of course, there is a plethora of other educational materials made available on the website that may be beneficial to both beekeepers and the general public. This is an image of the home page of the Texas Apiary Inspection Service website. At the top, you will find a tab titled Regulations. This is where you can download a copy of the current beekeeping laws and rules. The Forms and Fees tab is where you can find a list of permit applications, as well as their corresponding fees. All applications are fillable forms that are available for download when needed. As you move to the right, there are sections devoted to both beekeepers and the general public, as well as the bee removal page that lists all the beekeepers who conduct bee removals in Texas. On the right-hand side, you will see an icon that says, Give us a buzz. If you were to click on that icon, it would take you to a page where you could send an email to the inspection service directly. Please make sure to include your name and email address where TAIS can send a response. This image shows all of the information currently available under the For Beekeepers section, most notably the Pest and Disease section. However, there are other resources there that may be of use to Texas beekeepers. As with anything, the apiary industry is ever-changing. So, with new inventions and new threats constantly coming down the pipeline, the Texas Apiary Inspection Service will continue to work to protect the industry by monitoring for novel pests and diseases, promoting and supporting educational programs, and working with NGOs and other research groups with the intention of improving honeybee health within Texas and across the nation. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please contact the Texas Apiary Inspection Service.